Spoiler alert!
Welcome to Spoiler Alert. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Dustin.
and we are going to talk about Scream 22, or let's just cut the pretense and call it Scream 5.
Yes, thank God.
Alright. Originally, I really wanted to do a spoiler alert on The Matrix Resurrections, but the week that film came out, my grandpa Ron died, and this podcast is dedicated to the memory of Ronald G. Millhouse. May he rest in peace. Alright.
Yeah, condolences on your grandfather.
Thank you. Alright. So, anyway, let's get right to it. So straight away, Scream 22 starts off near shot for shot the opening scene from 1996, but with Jenna Ortega, who was last in The Babysitter Killer Queen as Cole's love interest. And I love the fact that it kind of plays into current horror trends, like Jenna Ortega's character being totally into A24 horror movies instead of the usual slasher films like Barrymore's character.
Yeah, it was cool because they they really wrote that opening scene. I mean, it was pretty masterful, to be honest, because
Yeah,
they had a lot to do. They had to convince you that it wasn't Scream 4. They had to kind of let you know where the state of horror and fandom is,
yes.
and they had to pull off the infamous opening scene all in one shot. And I
Much less
think,
with a relative unknown actress.
yeah, and I think that they nailed it. She nailed it. She was captivating, like, right from the rip. um and they established that, I was going to say something to you before we even started recording, and I'm glad I waited because it's
Yeah.
perfect. But I think, and I don't know if you went through this, but when you hear Ghostface's voice,
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of thinking of that character as not just some new person in a mask. It was almost as if, like, the spirit of that character that's sort of been with every single franchise. It's like it's its own character, even though each movie is some different Ghostface under the mask.
Yeah, and Roger
Um,
Jackson crushes it in this movie. He's still
yeah,
intimidating after all these things. He's the one constant in the five Scream movies.
and which is weird because narratively it's not the same person, but it is, right? But it isn't, but it is, but it is. And so,
Yeah.
like, there's that meta. It was almost like a new sort of a new way of looking at the franchise, because I was like, it's almost like hearing the voice of an old friend. You're like, okay, is he gonna, he was talking about old horror, she was talking about new,
Yeah.
and they were comparing and all of that, which I'm sure we'll get into. But
Oh, yeah.
it was kind of cool to see it through the lens of a character that's almost not even supposed to be in the narrative, because, like I said,
Yeah.
Ghostface is someone different each time, but yet, as an audience member, here comes our old friend Ghostface.
Yep.
And
And
they
what.
establish that he's so much, Ghostface is so much more brutal than before.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that definitely. Oh, yeah. All right, and right away, I love the fact that they start off with Jenna Ortega and didn't do the carbon copy of 1996, like, say, get Zendaya to play this character and have her die immediately. Because if they
Right.
did that, I would have fucking hated it, because it wouldn't have worked as well as it did in 96.
Yeah, and I heard that the rumor forever, I'm sure you were tweeting about it or rolling your eyes about it or whatever, but just that they were supposed to get Selena Gomez or something, and she was supposed to be the opening kill.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, but even then, it's going back to me talking about Zendaya. That would not work.
Right. Right. Not at
Because
all.
in 96, Drew Barrymore was slated to play Sidney Prescott, but she had scheduling conflicts. And
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to do the opening scene and suggested to Wes Craven to play this opening scene instead to give the notion that anyone could die, even an A-lister at the time like Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. Very,
Because Drew Barrymore
very,
was
very,
hot shit
yeah.
in 95.
Yeah.
She
And
was
it's
the
like,
it girl.
right. And it's like what they did with Janet Leigh in Psycho.
Yeah,
They did kill her off like 40 minutes in or something.
yeah,
It's like it sets that precedent, which is unique to this film because this film they don't kill off the
yeah. They don't
opening.
kill off Tara. That's what I was gonna get into next. I love the fact
Right.
that they kept Tara alive. And then we're
Me too.
introduced to Sam, which is her older sister, played by Melissa Barrera, who was just in The Heights, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, she was just in The Heights. And I loved her character. And let's just get to the big reveal. She is Billy's bastard daughter. Which I was like, oh, go on. That's
Right.
interesting. Because I would legit buy Billy being a horn dog and fucking every piece of ass possible.
Yeah, it definitely works for Billy Loomis. It definitely works.
It's like, it really tracks. It's like with the Matrix Resurrections when they revealed that the Matrix is a video game. I'm like, yeah, that tracks. Because the first scene of the Matrix feels as if you're playing the first level of a PS4 video game in which you're learning the controls and then you're getting the exposition and then you go press X to shoot, press circle to do press circle to jump, press circle and square to do bullet time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that legitimately tracks. It's the same with Billy in Scream 5, that he would have a long lost bastard daughter.
Yeah, it works so well in the mythology just because a third or half of his character was like trying to bang Sidney Prescott, like that. It was half of his whole makeup of him as a character on the surface before you really, and then it kind of plays into like how she lost her virginity or whatever, and then oh, you now you got to die and all that, like so it does work because she's like in the original Sydney's like I'm going through some stuff, like somebody murdered my mom and now
Yeah.
they're back, and he's like, well, I got a girlfriend who won't sleep with me.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I watched the first two Scream, since I watched any of the Scream movies. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, and even then, in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, that legitimately tracks. Even if I didn't watch any of the Scream movies in a while. I should get back to that though, because I bought the first three Scream movies on Blu-ray for $10 on Amazon.
Nice. Yeah, I think I bought 1 through 4 for like $20 or something on
Yeah,
Apple or whatever. So it's
yeah,
like they're all there for $20 or whatever. So I had just watched 1 through 4 last year at some point, and then somebody said make sure you watch Scream 4 or something as a refresher. And so I did that just for the hell of it the night
yeah.
before.
And I never liked Scream 4. I only saw it once and just kind of hated it. I
I'm
saw
okay.
Scream 3.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, look, Scream 3 gets a lot of unnecessary hate. I get
Yeah, I
it.
was
It
going to
was,
get to that too.
yeah, I mean, we can tackle it when you're ready, but Scream 4, I mean, it's not for what it attempts to do, it's it's pretty ballsy. And you just have to kind of appreciate that. I think it's more fun now knowing that they've successfully rebooted a franchise and whatever. So now you kind of have Scream 4 to like enjoy. I feel like when it came out, there was so much pressure on it to be Scream 22, 2022. And that's why it collapsed because they were
Yeah,
never going to get it right under those circumstances.
exactly.
So
And
the success of this film actually gives Scream 4 some success, really, because they do use some characters from Scream 4.
yeah, and it's been like I said, I only watched it once 10, 11 years ago, and I didn't watch it again.
Yeah, I remember everybody leaving the theater from Scream 4 like, damn, I wish that was blank. Like whatever. Like everyone had their own wants and
Yeah,
desires from Scream 4. Um, with Scream 22, I feel like people were not only entertained, but they were leaving the theater like excited.
yeah, I left the theater excited. I just wrote my Letterboxd review. I initially was going to give it a 4 out of 5, but the more I thought about it, I was like, this is a 4.5. This is
Nice.
one of those movies that I know that's released in January that'll probably be a favorite films candidate by the end of the year, like Paddington 2. Sorry, let me get some
Yeah.
water.
Oh no, you do your thing. Yeah, and like you were saying, I mean, no pun intended or pun intended, fuck it. Like Melissa Barrera, Sam, she just fucking kills it.
Yeah, she's really good. She was really engaging. I liked her character's backstory. In fact, I liked
Yeah.
all of the characters in this film. I was behind this 100%.
So what do you think in your opinion as a film lover, also as a film critic, if you or for with those both of those hats on, which are kind of both maybe opposite hats,
Yeah,
right? And like as a film go as a movie goer, as a film, someone who a large part of their life is devoted to film. What do you what makes Scream 5 or Scream 22, as we're calling it, more successful than Scream 4?
Scream 5 actually balances fan service and nostalgia better. Like, for comparison purposes, let's look at Ghostbusters Afterlife as a prime example. The first two acts of this movie, I was at a 5-star rating. And then the third act just had to go and pander to geeks and gamers and just do 1984 all over again. I was like, you have Evo Shandor right there. That's an awesome villain. And you just push him aside. Nonetheless, J.K. Simmons. You push J.K. Simmons aside, man. For what? Gozer the Gozerian? And that
Yeah,
brought
I
it
mean,
down like a 1.5-star rating because those first two acts and Ghost Harold Ramis just brought it in for me. So I do like the
yeah,
film, but I don't like hardcore love it.
right.
Whereas Scream 2022 actually addresses toxic fandom. Hell, Ryan Johnson in Universe directs Stab 8, and he's Public
So
Enemy
funny.
#1. And I love that
So,
it's a huge fuck you to toxic fandom, all the
yeah, me
while
too.
being a Scream movie. And that's where it succeeds for me, where Scream 4 doesn't.
Yeah, I know, and there's a lot of stuff on YouTube about this, but I know 4 was supposed to be the start of a new trilogy, and there was some plot lines, and you can see them. I mean, they're loose. They're hanging there. They want you to pull on them in Scream 4. There's a plot line that's unfinished between Sydney and Dewey. There's like some
Yeah.
weird like romantic thing going on between them that they don't go into.
Yeah.
That they hint at. There's some stuff with Kirby, which I'm sure we'll get into in this video because it has a bearing on the new Scream. But I know that they were trying to sort of reboot the franchise with 4, and it was unsuccessful. But with this one, it's successful.
Yeah. Yeah, because you believe where each character is at. Like, Dewey is retired, Gail Weathers is a big name in New York, and Sydney is a parent at this point. You believe
Right.
where they are all at, and it's actually believable.
Yeah. I, yeah, for real. And in movies and fandom, and you know, it we're in such a strange place in the world, but it's strange nonetheless with where we are in terms of film and fandom and loving what's canon, what's not canon. I mean, these terms
Yeah.
are terms that as film lovers and nerds and you know you and I would throw around with our friends or
Mm-hmm.
whomever back in the day 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now they're like legit pop culture. So we've got from 96 till now,
Yeah.
we've gone through an entire shift where when Randy in the first Scream or the second, he actually says it in the second Scream, um if I was writing a sequel, Dewey asks him, how would you write it?
Yeah.
And they go back and forth about, well, I'm not the killer, but you know, and all that. And it's a good little piece. But he says, I'd let the geek get the girl. And what's crazy is now with Scream 22,
Yeah.
right? The geeks are getting the girls.
Yes.
The fandom is popular. So it's almost
Yeah.
like this self-fulfilling narrative that's come full circle now.
And that's the thing with the Scream movies. They all captured the zeitgeist of what was popular.
And
Like,
I love that. Yeah.
and Scream 3 tackled trilogies, Scream 4 tackled remakes, and Scream 5 tackles. I don't know the technical term of this, but I heard this on another YouTube channel, but so I'm going to go with it. A remakeable. Like something like Creed or Halloween 2018 or The Force Awakens. Where
Yeah, I
it's a
think they
sequel.
call yeah, requel.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
requel sounds
great.
better actually.
I
And
think
they
that they
explore. Go ahead,
yeah.
dude.
No, in the movie, I think that's the term they use is the killer's making a requel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the term they actually use. And I kind of like that better than
Yeah,
remakeable.
sure.
And you have one character explaining the rules of a remakeable, where you bring in the legacy characters. You can't exactly reboot it like, say, Child's Play 2019, which that movie gets a lot of undue hate. I didn't mind that.
Right.
Or Black
I've
Christmas
never seen it.
2019. And you have this one character who's going in detail with what a remakeable is, where you bring in legacy characters, where you can't necessarily reboot it, a la say Child's Play 2019 or Black Christmas 2019. Those were the examples that were specifically used in 22.
Yeah, I think they even mentioned Flatliners for fuck's sake.
Yeah, yeah,
Love that. Love that.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I completely forgot there was a Flatliners remake, and I loved the
I was
'89
aware.
version.
Yeah, scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
$3 pickup on Amazon.
oh, nice. Yeah, I know that Kiefer Sutherland has like a cameo in the new one, in the newest Flatliners or
Yeah,
whatever. But I've never seen it. I'm a
I've never
big
seen it. Like I just said, I
yeah,
completely forgot about that.
yeah, and that's what's so great about these Scream movies is that they include shit like that. That's a real world Easter egg, and here we are
Mm-hmm.
talking about it. It's
Exactly.
great, fucking amazing.
And
Shout
then
out to Kiefer Sutherland.
exactly. And then we gotta talk about the kills in this. Radio silence when they were announced. I was all in because I loved Ready or Not. It was in my top 10 favorite films of 2019 that year. And so when they were announced, I was like, yeah, they'll perfectly capture what Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven's going for because I had no interest in Scream After 4. I didn't even watch the TV series. And sure enough, they crush it, delivering some of the
They
most
really do.
they crush it and give
Yeah.
some of the most brutal kills I've seen since Scream, the first Scream movie. Like Dewey goes out like a pimp in this movie.
Yeah, that was probably the best kill in Scream ever in the whole thing. I don't know. I think
But
Drew Barrymore's kill.
if we're talking about best kill, the end. The end. How about a new rule?
Oh
Don't
yeah.
fuck
Oh
with
yeah.
the daughter of a serial killer. Where Sam just
Yeah.
straight up does a kill that even Michael Myers would be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna fuck you with you. I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah. Right.
Michael Myers
I
would
didn't know if
teleport
you.
the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to jump into that now or save it for the end.
No, I'm gonna save that more for the end. But I just want to bring
Yeah.
up that was my favorite kill in the whole Scream
Yeah,
franchise.
I think
We'll go more into
in the
the
whole.
ending later.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Dewey, I mean, spoiler alert, right? You're
Yeah,
listening to the show, so everybody knows, like, Dewey gets fucking killed.
yeah,
Legacy character killed. And the way he gets killed, I think you're right. I think that is hands down the most hardcore kill in the whole Scream franchise, number one.
mm-hmm.
Two, it's probably the most heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Uh
because it's self-sacrifice.
yeah, and dude, double knives on
Mm-hmm.
each side, like being gutted from two sides, and then to stand there with both knives out like that, dripping in blood. I mean, the killer even whispers tonight to him, like, or whatever he says, because
Mm-hmm.
he says not today or not tonight or whatever. And he's like, tonight. That was fucked up. It was awesome, but
Yeah,
fucked up.
yeah. And then we get to Hicks and her son Wes in this.
Yeah, that was brutal
Like
too.
that was that. If you're talking about heartbreaking death in the Scream series, it's those two
Yeah, that was
because
some sick shit.
Wes comes home and sees Hicks lying dead, and then he gets killed subsequently after. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and the knife, like, it's not a one and done. It's a slow build, first of
Yeah,
all, with all the doors shutting and all the fucking refrigerator doors and cupboards and no one's behind it, and then all of a sudden, but the knife like goes in slowly into his neck, and they
yeah.
show it. They show it happening, and like it's pretty. It's pretty gnarly.
And I
It's a
love the
gnarly kill.
genuine suspense of that scene too when Marley Shelton finds out and she's like racing home to get to her son.
Right. And that's what's great about this film is it does. I don't know that there was, I mean, there were some scenes in 4 that were like that with the anticipation, but this really, I mean, they really really play that up. And to great effect. I mean, that's
Yeah,
a master class in horror. Because the whole time as the audience, you're like, this bitch is fucking racing home right into where he wants her.
mm-hmm.
But she has to because that's her son.
Exactly. If you're a parent, that's top priority. Fuck food, turn around, go home, get to your son, especially if you're a police officer.
Yeah, and like again, a master class in writing. That scene where she's going to get the food for the single mom is going to get the food for her and her son, and her son is going around the kitchen in silence and setting the table. just for the two of them. It's the way he sets the table, it's where things are located,
Yep.
it's the notes on the fridge. That gives that right there is like an hour of backstory crammed into a 90-second scene.
Exactly. And that's what radio silence is really good at. They know how to build suspense. Like a game of hide and seek should not be suspenseful in Ready or Not, but they make it
Right?
the most suspenseful thing ever.
It's so good. And
Yeah.
then the the ending of Ready or Not, it's
Yeah.
just like
That shot of
it's
Samara
just,
Weaving smoking a cigarette, I'm like, fuck, that is a great final shot.
yeah.
Like, that's
Well,
an
and
all timer.
yeah, and you're not even really they don't really show too much supernatural stuff during the film. It's just
Yeah.
more like these crazy people, so you're not really sure what's going to happen. And then when it does go down, when their heads start exploding, and then there's like that quick, it's very quick. It's almost like in the smoke is the specter of the game dude, or the guy that gave him the
Yeah.
money or whatever. And that's it. That's all there is supernatural wise. And that's what's so great about that. These filmmakers is whether it's Ready or Not or whether it's Scream, it's the details that inform the weight of the kills.
Right.
That's a
All right.
heavy kill when Wes gets killed.
Yeah. Yeah, that was brutal when that
It's
happens.
heavy. Yeah.
And then you see Hicks killed in that process too. It's like,
Oh
my
man,
God, you're
yeah,
really
and she
tearing at
gets.
my heartstrings. This horror movie is tearing at my fucking heartstrings here. I wasn't expecting that.
And who the fuck would have ever thought that anyone would care about Judy Hicks?
Exactly.
You
Like,
know?
she was kind of an ancillary character in the
Yeah.
original Scream movies. I completely forgot Marley Shelton was in those movies. I'm like, oh my God, it's Marley Shelton.
I think I think she's only in 4.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I think people were not that happy with her character anyway. So, but the fact that they turn her into that character into a hero in this one and make you feel for her death, they even bring back the lemon squares thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Again, I am
brilliant.
trying to remember Scream 4 off the top of my head. I only watched it once 11 years ago. But
So
yeah,
in
that
Scream, yeah,
tracks.
in Scream 4, she keeps, reminding there's like a running joke where she bakes like lemon squares for Dewey because she's flirting with Dewey, and Gail shows up and is like, she shows up at the station afterwards and tries a lemon square, and then she goes up in Judy Hicks's face and is like, "Oh, and by the way, your lemon squares taste like ass."
Yeah.
And that's the gag from Scream 4. Well, before Wes gets killed, he shuts the fridge and there's a note and it says, I left you a pan of lemon squares in the fridge or something like that. So they
Yeah.
bring the gag back before they're both brutally fucking
Yeah.
murdered.
And
But they got
that's
it in there.
actually the fact that they acknowledge Scream 4 is
Right.
actually really interesting. It's my least favorite of the Scream movies. But
Yeah.
if you're bringing characters back like that and actually trying to make Scream 4 work in this context, you're doing a really good job.
I love when everybody shits on a movie and the franchise is like fuck
Yeah.
you and they still honor it, like
Yeah.
what's another, so like in Oceans, everybody hated Oceans 12, like Oceans 11 was great, nobody liked
Yeah.
Oceans 12, but when Oceans 13 came around they incorporated a ton of shit from Oceans 12 and I was like fuck yeah, like a good
Yeah.
a good writing team can make you, they
Mm-hmm.
can make it work, and they make it work in Scream. Like whether it's Judy Hicks or they even. I'll save this for the end because this
Yeah.
this plays right into it. But yeah,
Right.
yeah. I
And
think, I mean, you're totally right on Radio Silence. Like they more than earned their way to make another couple of sequels.
yeah. And even then, I kind of want it to end right here because there's a lot of closure within all of these characters. To the point that I could die watch it knowing that I've watched all five Scream movies.
But would it be a death that's of a legacy character, or would it be like just a throwaway character? How would you want to be killed? No, I'm just kidding. Tell me, Ryan.
All right. But yeah, even let's go into the legacy characters though. Like
Sure.
Courtney Cox, Nev Campbell, Ski Ulrich, and David Arquette all crushed this. Like
Yeah, they
when
did.
you're seeing David, when you're seeing Ski Ulrich as Brian, and he's like 25 years older, clearly, and he still looks youthful as hell. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of buying this. I'm kind of buying that he is Sam's father.
Yeah, that that's a really interesting point, and I'm glad that you brought this up now that we sort of established all these things that have happened because yeah, you know, Billy Loomis comes back as a hallucination,
Yeah, yeah,
aka
Ghost
go
Dad.
or slash ghost to Sam because he's her dad. I wasn't 100% sure how I felt about that during the movie. Like I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
Um but it's very very different. But the way that it's done is exceptional because if you remember
yeah,
in Scream 3, they had fucking Sydney's mom running around or whatever for a while. It was really
yeah,
bad. It's
yeah,
like the worst. The
yeah,
worst. It's
yeah.
like that's
And even
probably the
I'm
worst
like,
thing they've ever done in Scream.
yeah, but it works to great effect. It's not like, say, in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Ghost Dennis Leary randomly shows up.
Does that happen? I don't remember that.
Yeah, in Amazing Spider-Man 2, Ghost Dennis Leary shows up in random scenes just to scowl at Andrew Garfield.
Oh, like he's seeing him. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's like his manifestation of his
Yeah.
guilt or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. Yeah. Well, with this, Sam's character from the opening scene, from her opening scene, she's taking like antipsychotic pills or what we're
Yeah.
what we're
And
meant to
just
believe
like
are.
fisting him into her mouth too.
Right. And then she actually talks with Billy Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Skeet Ulrich kills it. He has that sort of he plays it really well to the point where it's like it's not contrived. It's not like, hey, I look exactly like I did back then. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
badass. It's sort of like he's resigned to her memory, to her sort of
Yeah.
idea of what he would be. And he plays it from there. Like
It
he
doesn't feel
wants her.
gratuitous.
No, he wants her. It's still sort of weird. It still sort of
Yeah.
feels like a bucket of cold water to the face when it first happens, but that's what any good twist in a movie does. It gives you that like
Mm-hmm.
ice cold, like what the hell? Um, and it works in this movie. I mean, it really does. But he plays it good, and he sort of like I would say guides her into
Yeah.
letting her inner what she thinks she has as like a inner psychopath, sort of like in order for her to
Yeah.
survive. You know, he wasn't like, hey, go kill this person, go kill that person. Although it is sort of in hindsight, it does suggest that maybe that's what was going on prior to the events of the film, is
Yeah.
that she was having those hallucinations and he was
Because
telling
she
her to
ran away from home. She ran
right.
away from home because she found out she was Billy Loomis's daughter and couldn't handle that pressure of being in that family full well knowing that.
Right. Right.
And then you have
So
and then you
go
have
ahead.
Courtney Cox and Nev Campbell in this movie, still killing it, feeling like natural progressions of their characters. Where Courtney
Yeah.
Cox is like this big shot reporter, and then she goes down to Woodsboro, I believe the place is. Again, it's been a while
Yeah.
since I watched Scream movies. Just to get
Woodsboro,
a
yep.
cheap story, just to get a cheap story, but then realizing, oh shit, what have I wrought? Am I just chasing a story? And when she reunites with David Arquette, which remember they were an item back in the day, it's truly touching, and it works.
It does. Out of the legacy characters, David Arquette as Dewey has the most to do. He's in it. He's in it
Yeah,
the most. He's got the most backstory in terms of
yeah,
like we see more of his life than we do of the other two. Um, I think it's again good writing, but I
yeah,
also think that these things in a way prop up some ideas that we can talk about towards the end of this, like
yeah,
for what comes next. But when Gale Weathers and Dewey meet for the first time after
yeah,
10 years or whatever it's been, he lets it slip like I retired, and she's like, when did that happen? And he's like, almost in tears, he
yeah,
says to her, like, when they asked me to.
yeah.
And that just that again, just that one subtle line
That line
tells
delivery
you a
too.
world. It tells you a world of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was he so affected by all of the events that had transpired in the previous films that he was screwing up? Was it his alcoholism? Was it trauma? Was it that he was too paranoid? You know what I mean? You don't really
Yeah,
know, and we don't need to know because we can fill in those gaps with our imagination. And that's what's great
exactly.
about
Like
yeah.
scenes that should be exposition dumps aren't exposition dumps. They'll have like one line and it's super effective to the story. Like the
Yeah.
line you brought up with
Mm-hmm.
Dewey.
It's, I mean, what's more scary in the real world than a line like that
Yeah.
when they asked me to retire? We all know like how crazy shit can get and how,
Mm-hmm.
how trauma and mental illness and all
Yeah.
of these things can play into someone's backstory. And yet that one line just brings everyone to their knees
Yeah.
because again, we don't want to know. We don't have to know. It's just that line is scary, and the look that he gives, and the look of like fear slash uh feeling sorry for him that she gives back.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just it's sort of like the next level up from what you would expect from like a slasher. And say what you will about the last two Halloween movies, but
Yeah.
they are incorporating more of the subtlety, the real
Yeah.
world subtlety that makes things scary,
Like I
Like
thought Halloween 2018 was good. Halloween Kills, I watched the alternate ending on YouTube. Like if they ended with that alternate ending that I saw on YouTube, where it cuts to Jamie Lee Curtis saying your ass is mine, I would have given it a higher grade. Because it just
yeah,
kinda ends. The original cut just kinda ends.
well, yeah, I am a fan
Yeah.
of Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
I truly did not understand why it got so much hate. And to bring it back to the Scream stuff, what's scary about Halloween Kills to me is that you get to slow down for a tiny bit,
Yeah.
and you get to see what the trauma of the original Halloween has done to the sheriff, has done to the children of
Yeah.
the town. They've all
Mm-hmm.
turned into like, alcohol-y kind of like
Yeah.
party fucking
And
whatever kind
that's
of
what
people.
Halloween Kills did well.
It
That's what.
really did.
Mm-hmm.
There's
But it
this
was just kind of
specter
the
of trauma.
It was the execution where I was like, this movie's okay. Like the kills rule. I like what they're trying to do, but them chasing after like somebody who I will just call Danny DeVito's stunt double when they clearly show them on the screen. There's a clear height
Yeah,
differential.
that's super weird that these people even know what he looks like without the mask and we don't. I
Yeah.
don't know what that's about. That's like really sort of, they should have figured that out, first of all. Second of all, I like the idea. I mean, in the times that we're living in, whether it's like, political stuff or COVID or
Yeah.
whatever, the mob mentality is fucking terrifying either
Yeah.
way. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you've been at a concert, I'm sure,
Oh yeah.
and someone has a stupid idea to like start a pit this way, or I think this
Yeah.
guy's got this, or what. I mean, like the paranoia of that just in the moment, there's nothing scarier than that.
I went to go see Social Distortion 10 years ago at the Omni, and then
Oh, God.
somebody threw some water at Mike Ness. Mike Ness stops the show dead, and he's straight up threatening to murder motherfuckers.
Yeah. And see that sort of, I'm in a crowd, it's turning violent. Do I go the other way and get trampled?
Yeah.
Do I try and stop them? Do I become part of this? Am I angry? Like that's
Yeah.
all terrifying shit that we're all going through, like post January 6th or whatever. And here
Yeah.
comes Halloween Kills or Scream with these
Mm-hmm.
with these ideas of what's scarier than what you've already been through. Nothing. And that's where these new age sort of horror movies, if we're
Yeah.
calling them that, modern horror, whatever the fuck,
Elevated
requels.
is the term they use in the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, and that's like where they succeed is that we're I think that it's a line from a Robin Williams movie. I think it's 1 hour photo, actually, if you want a deep cut, there you
Mm-hmm.
go.
I love one
He
hour
says,
photo.
me too, but the line is that our greatest fears have already happened to us.
Yeah.
And that sort of captures how I felt about Scream 22, is that there's so much trauma and the weight of a franchise on the shoulders of, like, not just these characters, right, new and old,
Mm-hmm.
but the viewer, like
Yeah.
the moviegoer in that theater. You feel that weight of all the previous films,
Yep.
all the things they did right, all the things they did wrong, the weight of the legacy characters, and then all these new fears of the new people.
Yeah, which is why horror has become so good post Trump. Like your Get Outs, your Candyman 2021s, your 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 Hereditaries, all that. Like that's why I love horror movies these
Yeah.
past few years because they're
Isn't that
playing on our
crazy?
fears. Yeah.
It's crazy that, like, what does it say that comedy is almost been completely wiped out, but horror has been elevated beyond our wildest dreams post Trump? What
Yeah.
does that say about that's just a crazy thought, but it's the truth.
Exactly.
Comedy films. When's the last time you saw like a comedy movie in theaters? It's been like 10 years for me.
I I really haven't seen much of I haven't really put a broad
Yeah.
comment. I can't even think of a broad comedy right off the top of my head. And you figured it would be ripe for a time to do comedy.
Yeah.
And
And
then you
and the
have
thing,
movies. Oh, Borat's subsequent movie film, but that
sure.
aired on Amazon. That was
Yeah.
one of my favorite films of 2020 because it perfectly captured the pandemic.
Yep.
It perfectly captured
And
the pandemic and the Trump administration.
yeah, and that's the thing, is comedy's been wiped out and horror has been elevated. I mean, that says a lot about the times that
Yeah,
we're living in. And they without being political or anything like that, they
yeah,
they definitely hit on that in this new Scream film.
yeah. Yeah, especially given the third act. Let's go ahead and end this and talk about the third act.
Yeah.
The two killers are basically, let's call them geeks and gamers fans. They're pissed out about Stab 8. They want to make the movie their way. It's interesting because I have a kind of a similar screenplay idea I'm outlining right now, but it would be like bare minimum a $500,000 project.
Oh, fuck it. Let's get
I'll
it. Let's
just
get that bitch funded and made.
I know, right? But anyway, they're basically like geeks and gamers types. It's Richie and the Asian girl, and they kind of telegraph this throughout this. Like the microsecond Richie shows up, I'm like, he's the killer, and that's why I was originally going to give it a 4 out of 5. But at the same time, as I thought about it more over the past few days, I'm like, that's the point. That's the point. Dewey straight
Yeah.
up tells him the love interest is the killer.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you watch any Dateline episode, it's 95, 96%, maybe 97, 98% always the husband
Yeah,
or the boyfriend.
exactly. And I like the fact that the third act takes place in Stumacher's house, and it tracks, and it doesn't feel like it's pandering. Like, going back to what I said about Ghostbusters, after, like, just straight up doing the third act of Ghostbusters 1984.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is so so Randy, which by the way, like huge mistake on killing him off in the second film. Like,
Yeah,
I think that they realized that. I think that's why they introduced his niece and she survived because
yeah,
she's sort of like the new rules sort
yeah,
of character. But that scene in Stumacher's house where she's in that same room, right? And it's like meta on
yeah,
meta, right? Does she realize she's in the same room?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
That's
why I was
crazy.
thinking with that too. Like,
Yeah.
and she's like, she's roasting the movie she's watching. Like, no, don't go, don't go. And here's Ghostface right behind her, and she's blissfully unaware of the situation.
Yeah.
And then,
It ends up saving her because she does listen to her
yeah,
gut. She does look,
mm-hmm,
and whatever. But it's weird to me that she would be watching a movie that takes place in the same exact scenario.
yeah,
Like there's a serial killer on the loose. Let's have a party in the same house that blank. And so that was kind of cool. That gives you a lot to think about,
yeah,
because it's meta on meta on
yeah.
meta. It's
And
like three
then
levels.
the third act is where all bets are off. And I really dug the hell out of the third act of this movie, where you're
Yeah.
genuinely fearing for their lives, because I liked all of these characters, even the villains. I didn't want
Yeah.
to really see any of them die.
I was sort of disappointed in the fact that they revealed themselves so quickly. I was
Yeah,
I was hoping for another 5-10 minutes of running around the house.
yeah, mm-hmm.
Um, but the female killer, well, I can't remember her name either.
I can't remember her name. I know Richie, but I can't remember the female character off the top of my head.
Yeah. She just like blasts the other character, and she's like that the welcome to the third act. I love that line,
Yeah,
welcome to the third act.
yeah,
That's a
that's what
great
I was gonna
line.
say. I was like, I love that line.
Oh, her name is her character's name is Amber.
Amber.
Yeah. Amber and Richie are the killers from Scream
Yeah,
22. Richie being Sam's boyfriend
yeah,
from out of town,
which we already
who,
talked about.
yeah, the whole film he's like seemingly, obsessively watching
Stab.
the
The
stab
stab
films
movies. Yep.
on Netflix, and he actually gives his motive away before he gives his motive away about how he's watching the YouTube. Um, did you catch the Easter egg on the YouTube page?
No, I didn't.
So Kirby from Stab,
Yeah.
Kirby from Scream 4, the horror Hayden Panettiere, right?
Yeah.
Her character was stabbed and supposedly killed, but the fans, she's always been a fan favorite. Everybody always wanted Kirby to come back.
Yeah.
So when Jack Quaid's Richie is watching, yeah, when he's watching the Dead Meat channel or whatever
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube, on the side, there's an interview with Kirby, Hayden Panettiere's
Yeah.
character from 4, about how she survived the killing. So she's alive. It's canon. She's
Yeah.
alive in the Scream universe, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which I think that she'll come back for if they do another one. Which, let's be real, they're gonna do another one.
Yeah. They're probably gonna do another one.
And they'll probably film the next 2 back to back. So also, I think Patrick Dempsey's character from 3, I think his name was like Michael Kincaid or something, right?
Yeah, again, I
Um,
completely forgot Patrick Dempsey was in Scream 3.
yeah, yeah. So when Sydney shows up at the hospital in the third act, beginning of the third act, Gail asks her, "How's Michael?
Yeah,
How are the kids?" So that's suggesting that she actually got married to Patrick Dempsey's character, which
yeah,
again, these simple one-line things
yeah.
can, I find
And
it suspiciously convenient. And this is just go with me down this rabbit hole
go
for a
ahead.
second. Tinfoil hat and all. I think it's suspiciously convenient that they do not show Sydney's children. There's not a quick
Yeah.
cameo phone call from Patrick Dempsey.
Mm-hmm.
And when Courtney Cox is asking her how her husband Michael and the kids are, she does this weird thing with her face when she answers. Almost as
Yeah.
if it's a cover story, right?
Right. Yeah.
So maybe there's something there because it's so suspicious to me that Sydney doesn't really have that much to do. Neither does
Yeah.
Gail. They
But
serve a
they play
purpose
their
for
parts
sure.
well.
Yeah, but in the end, there's 4 final girls really.
Yeah.
There's Gail, Sydney, Tara, and Sam,
Yeah.
and they kind of come up like the old passing the torch to the new kind of come up face to face, but everybody walks away and goes their separate ways for
Mm-hmm.
now. I think there's more to the story that we don't know. I think there's something going on with Sydney that we don't know about.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the fact that they never show Sam and Tara's mother, I think that means that she's probably some legacy character that wasn't ever really, and
Yeah.
whatever
An
their twist is in
ancillary
that.
character. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I think there's more to the story, but here's my thing. If Sam is seeing and speaking and taking advice from a dead Billy Loomis, number one,
Yeah.
is that going to continue now that they've set that up then in the future sequels?
Yeah, that probably will. I mean,
Right.
Skeet Ulrich is only on screen for like what, 5 minutes in the entire movie?
Yeah. Um yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
They can't just drop it. Like, oh, I got stronger meds. Skeet Ulrich isn't coming to me anymore. Like, he was probably that was probably again,
He probably
that was
got paid
probably
tons of fucking money to do that.
yeah.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
Chris Knopf got paid tons of money to die in the new Sex and the City show, and then like the
Oh
week after
yeah.
that, he was accused of hideous things, and HBO Max was
Oh
like,
god.
"Fuck, we just paid this guy."
Jesus. So Sam talking to her dead father that she's never met, the serial killer father, right? So
Yeah,
that's going to probably have to be a thing moving forward, which I like, which is
yeah,
cool. But another thing I'm going to say, it could be, every episode with you, I feel like I got to drop some controversy.
yeah.
So this is my controversial statement.
What?
There's actually 3 killers in Scream 2022. There's Amber,
Yep.
there's Richie,
Richie.
and there's Sam.
Yeah,
Because she straight up like turns him over and stabs him,
yeah.
goes
Like
ahead
I
and says,
said.
never fuck with a serial killer's daughter, right? And
Yeah,
then she lets it's like you can see it in her face, her acting. She's letting out the thing that she's been trying to suppress.
mm-hmm. Exactly,
And that's scary.
and
I
that's
mean,
what I was bringing up earlier.
yeah,
Just that flip of a switch with Melissa Barrera's Sam, and I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking brutal. And yeah, that actually tracks. I could
right?
legit buy her as a Ghostface type.
100%. And I mean, she 100% commits murder, like murder, like cold-blooded
Yeah.
murder at the end. Like,
Going back to what I was saying about Michael Myers, where he teleport the fuck out of there. Like, I got some stuff to do with the
yeah,
foreign call. See ya.
yeah, and I think her stabbing him and then turning him over and fucking going to town on him,
Yeah.
and having the blood like spray all over her face, and
Yeah.
the line about "don't fuck with a serial killer's
Yeah.
daughter," and her letting out all that fucking shit she's been trying to keep back. I think that's the best. That's my favorite part of the movie for me.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
a mark for a great one-liner, and that was a great
yeah.
fucking one-liner.
Well, it just has so many implications.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now we know that you're capable of that. Sydney and Gail kind of look the other way on it. That's cool.
Yeah.
But like, where do we go from here? I think
Exactly.
that to me is the most interesting piece of this whole thing.
Now that we're talking about this, it's like, shit, I want to see Scream 6 now. Hopefully they
Exactly.
bring radio silence back. Because originally
Yeah,
I
and
wasn't on board with the sequel, and as we're breaking
right.
this down, I'm like, shit, I want to see a Scream 6. Because
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy if this were Scream 5, but I'd be open to a Scream 6 now.
Yeah, because you have all of this smart writing that
Yeah.
honors what Wes Craven did and it
Yeah.
pays homage to it.
And
There's still
takes it
more homage to
seriously,
pay.
too.
Yeah, for sure. And it does deal with toxic fandom. I mean, these killers were doing it, and which we both know what's up with toxic
Yeah.
fandom. Like we
I did a
both see.
whole ass half-an-hour video on toxic fandom in relation to Masters of the Universe Revelation because I love those first 5 episodes so much. And I had toxic Snyder fans attack me during my grandpa's funeral because I dared to praise James Gunn in the same sense as Zack Snyder. And
Yeah.
a little bit of a spoiler of my favorite films list. Like, I'm going to go into a bit of a rant about why Zack Snyder and James Gunn are both god tier filmmakers. I purposely tied the Suicide Squad and Zack Snyder's Justice League on my favorite films list for that reason. I'm tired of seeing this Bloods and Crips mentality between the two
no,
when
it's
they're
really
close
stupid.
personal friends.
Well, again, like, toxic fandom, like those dudes, like their logic is if we can sync Robert Pattinson, if we can sync James Gunn, if we can sync, Patty Jenkins, if we can sync everything, then they'll be forced to bring Zack Snyder back. And that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That is
stupid to me. And even then, this is a fandom that proves they can do good. They're just choosing not to. Like, like, for example, like, you're pissed off at Warner Brothers for the shit Ray Fisher went through. Find a charity that fights systemic racism and build it around Restore the Snyderverse and release the air cut and all these hashtags. Boom.
Exactly.
And when David Zaslav sees that shit come mid-2022, he'll be like, yeah, maybe we should restore the Snyderverse. But attacking all these filmmakers that aren't Zack Snyder and David Ayer, that's counterintuitive to this movement.
It's really, really dumb. Well, and that's what's cool about Scream is that your killers are upset to the point where the quote unquote Scream or Stab franchise has been taken, so they take it upon themselves to write their own storyline, their own ending, their own new reboot
by using real people,
right? By killing all these people, therefore bringing in the legacy characters with the new characters and having some revenge thing play out with Billy Loomis's daughter killing Sidney Prescott and like rewriting their own thing to reboot the franchise. And there's so much there. A couple times, like when they have Amber dead to rights, I think it's more than once. She's like, no. I was radicalized. I was radicalized
Yeah.
online or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have her again. We should probably talk about how Amber dies the exact same way that she dies in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the hell?
Yeah.
Literally, how do you get set on fire with a knife in your hand in two different movies?
That's who that was. I was like, where have I seen her before?
Yes, you
And
saw
she
her die
was
the
one of the
exact same
Manson family
way.
members.
Yes. When he
And
when
even
he
then, in Ryan Johnson's Stab 8, someone dies by a flamethrower.
right, it's super weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
That
what I
brings
mean
up a
the
really good point, too.
yeah. There's a lot there's all sorts of meta happening.
Yeah. Uh,
And obviously the filmmakers, the director, the actor who did it, like, you know, Mikey Madison is her name. She
yeah.
plays Amber. She's clearly done that before. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wait a minute, why would you choose? It just has to be like a wink to film fans.
Yeah.
I'm surprised no one's talking about it because she's set on fire with a knife in her hand in two separate movies, and she comes back screaming
Yeah.
in both films.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, in Ryan Johnson's Stab 8, one of the characters is set on fire with a flamethrower.
Yeah, I love that they threw everybody off
Yeah.
with showing that silver mask in the trailers and shit, and then
Mm-hmm.
it turns out to be Stab movie.
All right. So anyway, Dustin, out of 5, what would you give this?
Out of 5, I will give this a 4.4.
I usually go point 0.5 system, so
Okay,
go ahead and
yeah.
go
No, I'm just
4.5.
that's what I took the point of a point off
Yeah.
just to fucking be a douche.
Okay,
No,
we can do that.
I would yeah, no, I would give it a 4.5. You know, it was really um I was gonna say 4, but then I just like the way that it paves the way for all sorts of new stuff and to like finish out the story with Sydney and shit if they want to.
Yeah. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and talk my rankings with the Scream movies. My
Yeah.
ranking is 1, 5, 2, 3, 4. What's yours?
Oh wow, this is so I would say that mine would be, and I'm reorganizing these live in my head right now. I have not thought about this. I did it like a week ago. I'm like, that's too hard. Forget it. So here we are. Uh, 1, 2, 5, 3, 4.
All right.
That's
All
what I
right.
would say. Wait, you gave this movie what? A
I
four
gave it a
point or
4.5 on Letterboxd.
oh, so yeah, so we're
Yeah,
we're
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 both on the
matched.
same page with this movie.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right. So anyway, be sure to like, comment, share, spread the word of New Realms Media. Follow me on all my socials at New Realms Media. And until then, I got a 40-minute favorite films video to edit.